On the morning of November 16, 1996, Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport was bustling and noisy as usual, with thousands of passengers hurriedly passing through check-in counters. Among them was a middle-aged man with a calm demeanor preparing to board a flight to Switzerland. That man was Harold James Jim Nicholson, 46 years old, a respected name in the American intelligence community. He was the chief of the Counterterrorism Center at the CIA, a position few could achieve. But the worn-out camera bag he carried did not contain family photos or memories. Inside were 10 rolls of undeveloped film holding the most classified national secrets of the United States. Unbeknownst to him, this would be his final journey as a free man. Jim Nicholson, with the confidence of a seasoned veteran and a skilled CIA operative, believed he was embarking on yet another covert mission. He was heading to a meeting in Switzerland, not with colleagues, but with agents of the Russian Foreign Intelligence Service, SVR. The purpose of the trip was to sell stolen information for cash, a dark deal he had been conducting for years. However, as Nicholson approached the security gate, a group of FBI agents suddenly appeared, surrounding him discreetly but firmly. "Mr. Nicholson, we need to talk," one agent said, and Jim knew the game was over. He did not resist quietly following them, accepting the reality that he had been caught. This arrest immediately sent shockwaves through the U.S. intelligence community. Just 2 years after the Aldrich Ames case, Nicholson's case once again exposed serious vulnerabilities in the CIA's security system. Nicholson was not a low-level employee. He was one of the highest-ranking officers ever caught spying for a foreign power, specifically Russia, a rival he had once sworn to oppose. The 10 rolls of film seized were undeniable evidence. They contained the identities, backgrounds, and details of dozens of CIA operatives working covertly around the world. These secrets could dismantle entire intelligence networks, directly threaten the lives of numerous agents, and cripple critical operations. However, the arrest in Dallas was not the end, but the beginning of a much more complex story. It was a tragedy of insatiable greed, cold betrayal, and a heartbreaking family drama. It was the journey of a man who once had everything but traded it all for money and a lavish lifestyle, only to later drag his own son into a vortex of crime to continue his sinister schemes. To truly understand why Jim Nicholson embarked on the path of betrayal, we must look back to his childhood, a period shaped by the Cold War and personal instability. Born on November 17, 1950, just months after President Harry Truman declared a national emergency due to the Korean War, Jim grew up in a world where the threat of communism was ever present. In Woodburn, Oregon, he lived in a family with a military tradition. His biological father was a serviceman, but left the family early. His mother was a former military cryptographer, and his stepfather, who adopted him at age 7, was an Air Force officer. The life of a military brat forced Jim to face a harsh reality: constant relocation. His family frequently moved between military bases from one state to another, making it difficult for Jim to build lasting relationships or a sense of belonging. This loneliness and instability pushed him into the world of books, particularly spy novels. Characters like James Bond or Napoleon Solo were not just entertainment, but became idealized figures of courage and intelligence, fueling his desire for adventure, to change history, and to become a hero. These stories planted the seeds for his dream of becoming a spy. In 1969, upon graduating high school in Novato, California, Nicholson faced a pivotal choice. It was the height of the Vietnam War, with anti-war protests raging across the country. However, instead of joining the protests, he chose to remain loyal to his family's tradition. He enrolled in the Reserve Officer Training Corps (ROTC) at Oregon State University, laying the foundation for his military career and later his CIA tenure. His turbulent childhood, marked by loneliness and a desire for recognition, inadvertently sowed the seeds for his later missteps. Jim's aspirations, shaped by spy novels, became a double-edged sword, driving him to succeed, but also leading to his downfall. In 1973, Jim Nicholson's life took a new turn when he met Laura Sue "Lori" Cooper at Oregon State University. After a whirlwind week of romance, they made a hasty decision to marry. The wedding was steeped in military tradition, but it also marked the start of a tumultuous marriage. Lori, a young woman full of ambition, gave up her studies to follow her husband's career, accepting the role of an officer's wife. However, this role quickly became stifling as she lived in loneliness and emotional neglect while Jim was consumed by his work. For Nicholson, his military career progressed rapidly. Trained extensively in cryptography at Fort Devens, he quickly demonstrated exceptional talent. His abilities were recognized, and in 1975, he was sent to Okinawa, Japan, a strategic post for monitoring communist activities in Asia. He rose to the rank of captain and commanded a unit in the prestigious 101st Airborne Division. However, each step forward in his career was a step backward in his family life. Frequent deployments and intense focus on work created a growing rift between him and Lori. After their first son Jeremiah was born in 1978, Jim realized he needed to provide a more stable life for his family. He decided to leave the military and took a job at Hallmark Cards in Kansas City. But civilian life quickly left him bored and dissatisfied. The routine office job, lacking excitement and adventure, could not satisfy the ambitions of a man who once dreamed of being James Bond. This discontent, combined with deepening cracks in his marriage, pushed Jim toward a fateful decision: joining the CIA. He believed only the world of intelligence could fulfill his desires, a choice that would forever alter his life and his family's fate. In 1980, Jim Nicholson was officially recruited by the CIA, returning to the thrilling world of intelligence he had always craved. After completing covert training at the farm in Camp Peary, Virginia, he quickly proved his talent and sharpness. His CIA career was a series of impressive advancement assignments in Manila, 1982, 1985, Bangkok, 1985, 1987, Tokyo, 1987, 1989, and culminating in his role as CIA station chief in Bucharest, Romania in 1990. Nicknamed Batman in Manila for his boldness and decisiveness, he was considered one of the CIA's most promising officers. However, alongside his brilliant career was an irreparable collapse in his personal life. His marriage to Lori fell apart due to infidelity on both sides, leading to a painful divorce in 1992. Financial pressures from alimony, raising 3 children, Jeremiah, Star, Nathan, and legal fees weighed heavily on Nicholson. Despite this, he maintained a lavish lifestyle, spending on expensive items like TVs, computers, and Rolex watches, far beyond a government salary. In this financial desperation, a dark idea took root. The 1994 Aldrich Ames case, where a CIA officer sold secrets to Russia for $2.5 million, inspired Nicholson, but in the wrong way. He saw an opportunity to escape debt and sustain his luxurious lifestyle. In June 1994 in Kuala Lumpur, he secretly contacted the Russian Foreign Intelligence Service, SVR, and offered to sell the identities of CIA operatives. In exchange, he received $25,000. But this was just the beginning. Nicholson promised to provide even more valuable information when he took on the role of instructor at the farm, where he would have access to the identities of future CIA operatives. Greed triumphed over loyalty, and Jim Nicholson officially became a double agent, ending his life as a loyal soldier and opening a new chapter of crime. By late 1994, Jim Nicholson began working at The Farm, the CIA's covert training center. This position was a golden opportunity for the SVR as it gave Nicholson access to the files of future CIA operatives. He did not hesitate to exploit his role. Using CIA cameras and his personal computer, he photographed and stored numerous classified documents, including the identities, backgrounds, and assignments of trainees. To communicate with the SVR, he used the alias Neville R. Stray, sending information through overseas dead drops and receiving cash via secret bank accounts. Initially, Nicholson's plan went smoothly. He received tens of thousands of dollars, including $50,000 at a meeting in New Delhi. However, his recklessness and greed left traces. In 1995, during a routine polygraph test, he failed. When asked about contact with foreign intelligence, his biological indicators showed deception. Despite his attempts to explain, CIA counterintelligence experts grew suspicious. At the same time, the FBI discovered unusual deposits in Nicholson's accounts, notably $61,000 in a Swiss account. A joint FBI-CIA task force was formed to investigate him. Agents tracked his every move. In 1996, he was followed to Singapore, where he met an SVR agent and received another $50,000 in cash. Hidden cameras at the CIA's Langley office captured him photographing classified documents. His computer was also examined, revealing deleted files containing sensitive information about Russia, Chechnya, and the Ames case. With irrefutable evidence in hand, investigators made their move. On the morning of November 16, 1996, at Dallas Airport, as Jim Nicholson prepared to board his flight, he was arrested. The 10 rolls of film in his camera bag were undeniable proof. Faced with this evidence, Nicholson had no choice but to plead guilty to conspiracy to commit espionage. In 1997, he was sentenced to 23 years and 7 months in prison. His life seemed over, but his story of betrayal took an even darker turn. After his conviction, Jim Nicholson was incarcerated at the Federal Correctional Institution in Sheridan, Oregon. But even behind bars, his desire to spy did not waver. He believed the SVR still owed him a pension and that he had more valuable information to sell. With the cunning of a former CIA operative, he devised a new scheme targeting his most beloved ally, his youngest son Nathan, who idolized his father and believed him innocent. Using religious language and imagery of a sacred mission, Nicholson skillfully manipulated Nathan. He turned his son into an unwitting agent, using him as a tool to contact the SVR. The father and son developed a sophisticated communication system, starting with notes written on tissue paper in prison, later transitioning to draft emails on Yahoo, a method difficult for authorities to detect. From 2006 to 2008, Nathan made trips to San Francisco, Mexico City, Lima, and Cyprus, meeting SVR agents and receiving over $47,000. In return, he provided details about how the CIA uncovered his father's espionage. Unaware he was committing a crime, Nathan believed he was helping his father redeem his honor. But the scheme did not escape the FBI's notice. In 2007, they detected suspicious communications between father and son and began monitoring Nathan. They found a notebook detailing his SVR meetings and the money received. In December 2008, Nathan was arrested after his Cyprus trip. Faced with undeniable evidence, Nathan cooperated, revealing his father's entire plot. Nathan Nicholson, seen as a victim of manipulation, received probation and community service. However, Jim Nicholson faced a new sentence. In 2011, he was given an additional 8 years in prison for conspiracy to act as an agent of a foreign government and money laundering. The case exposed serious flaws in the CIA's security system, from employee oversight to classified information protection. Dozens of operatives' identities were compromised. Training programs were altered, and the CIA tightened polygraph tests, financial monitoring, and security protocols. The damage from Nicholson's actions was incalculable. Many CIA officers were recalled from missions, intelligence networks were disrupted, and the agency's reputation suffered. On a personal level, the greatest tragedy was the destruction of the Nicholson family. Nathan, who once idolized his father, cut off all contact after realizing he had been used. When released in 2023 after 27 years in prison, Nicholson faced a lonely life with no family or honor left. The story of Jim Nicholson is a tragedy of greed and betrayal, not only against his country, but also against his loved ones. From a talented CIA officer, he sacrificed everything: career, family, freedom for money and a lavish lifestyle. For less than $200,000 from the SVR, he caused immeasurable damage to U.S. intelligence, endangered dozens of lives, and destroyed his relationship with his son. This case is a wake-up call for the CIA and the intelligence community about the importance of professional ethics, rigorous oversight, and early detection of betrayal signs. Flaws in the polygraph system, information security, and prisoner monitoring forced the CIA and FBI to undertake major reforms. Above all, Nicholson's story is a reminder that the greatest enemy is sometimes not an external adversary, but the weaknesses within oneself. Nathan, once manipulated by his father, tried to rebuild his life, but the psychological scars remain. When Jim Nicholson walked out of prison at age 73, he faced an empty future, unwelcome by family or society. This case will forever be a painful lesson about the cost of betrayal, not only to the nation, but also to those dearest to us.